My life with Incumbo Solicita Contaminata began in 1988. This was only the second modern zombie film I had seen, the first being The Return of the Living Dead, barely 2 months prior. Modern zombie cinema began, for those who do not know, with George A. Romero and John Russo's Night of the Living Dead of 1968. The movie was originally to be titled Night of the Ghouls, and thank goodness it wasn't, because if it had, zombie horror may not have been reborn. Before George was at the helm, zombies were merely cinematic voodoo props and were very, very boring. Zombies did not eat the flesh of the living. They did not kill unless their master demanded they do. They walked around aimlessly and did what the master said. Mindless, brainless zombies. Very boring, rarely ever scary. Now, there is that one dream sequence in Plague of the Zombies from 1966, the Hammer film, in which the zombies come off quite frightening, but that is only a dream sequence. And after that's over, we revert back to the same boring zombies of yore. But merely 2 years later, George A. Romero and John Russo would reinvent the zombie genre and give us a hell of a ride for decades to come. The Night of the Living Dead, the change was immediate. Zombies were now like ghouls. However, unlike a ghoul who wanted their flesh cold and matured, zombies wanted their flesh warm and bloody. And they would stop at nothing to get it. Sure, they may be slow paced. They'd get enough of them around you, and your ass may just be grass. Night of the Living Dead is a sensation that built over the years, turned decades, and well into the new century is cemented as one of not only the greatest zombie films ever made, but one of the greatest horror films ever. A total game changer for not only the zombie horror subgenre, but horror period. Too bad for Romero and Russo that they only saw profits from their film for a couple years before a flood washed away and destroyed any and all documentation of their ownership. Doom was at hand, but it is only in hindsight that we realize that because they lost the rights to the film, theaters around the country, theaters around the world, television networks around the globe could play Night of the Living Dead for no cost at all. Once they lost their documentation, it became public domain, and they had to pay no one. The studios, the theaters, the networks, they could play it at will anytime they chose, and they chose it often. Over the decades, Night of the Living Dead is played on late night television, perhaps more so than any horror film, be it black or white or color. Just think about it. All these independent television stations throughout the continental United States from the 1970s to the 1980s and well into the 1990s into the 21st century. This film has been played thousands of times. It is, I have no idea how many late night, midnight movie showings this movie started having in the 1970s into the 1980s. This film is truly beloved. Hell, it's the granddaddy of all. Now, is losing ownership still a total bummer for those involved? You bet it is. Soul ripping experience, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, you're one of two guys that made one of the greatest horror films of all time. His legacy will forever be untarnished. All right, now back to Nkumbo. This was only the second modern zombie film I had seen. Night of the Living Dead was only mentioned in Return of the Living Dead, so I didn't really know what to expect from this film other than the blood-strewn woman on the cover, which was kind of gross and kind of lurid. And the synopsis on the back of the box with an image of a brainstem. I really didn't know what to expect. Now, for my first zombie film of the modern variety, I knew the zombies were fast moving, they could talk, and even still have eyeballs after being interred for 100 years. So the fact that the zombies in Kumbo could brandish machine guns, wield axes and knives, were fast moving, seemed to have superhuman strength, was a little frightening to me. The Return of the Living Dead definitely scared the shit out of me. This was something a bit more. And over the film's entirety, I remember having this increasing sense of dread, so much so that I remember picking up a toy M1 rifle that my dad had bought for me and just firing shots rapidly, paying attention to the film at the same time, yet also using that M1 rifle as a crutch to stave off the fear and dread I had watching the film. I didn't start collecting DVDs until 2002. In 2004, I bought my first copy of City of the Walking Dead, aka Nightmare City, aka Incumbo Silicita Contaminata. And I was in love. It was a gorgeous print. The sound had never sounded better. The picture had never been crisper, and I was thrilled that I would finally get to hear the director of this much loved film of mine talk about his masterpiece. Well, I was a little shocked to hear that famed horror director Umberto Lenzi considered this film a contaminated person story and not at all a zombie film or vampire film, as the film itself suggests. That really shocked me. This is a zombie film through and through, but they are zombies of a different nature, and that would highly explain the so-called oatmeal face zombie look. I mean, these are creatures highly contaminated by radiation. And if you look at real pictures of people suffering vast amounts of radiation poisoning, it's pretty much the same. But that being said, a contaminated person story, sure. Uh, I love Umberto Lenzi. I just don't agree with his take on this film. It's a zombie film, 100%. All right, here's the thing. This is a rub. Horror fans in general appreciate a certain amount of scenes in their horror films. There's a certain amount of things that make a horror film great. Nightmare City, City of the Walking Dead has all those ingredients, and then some. If people want to laugh about the dubbing, fine. Some of it is laughable. As far as the way the film's shot, as far as the music goes, cinematography, music, the direction, what are you complaining about? This is a film that is very well done. Only one scene I have a problem with. And as for the oatmeal faced zombies, that's what extreme doses of radiation does to the human body. Okay, it's a fact. Are you going to have superhuman strength and need to slit throats and drain blood? No, but your body is going to look like that. In that sense, it is quite realistic in that one sense. From the moment the Hercules military aircraft lowers its hatch and the zombies pour out, or contaminated persons, the carnage of an ultimate zombie Armageddon is in full bloom. I mean, this film is unrelenting in its path of terror. I mean, it's fantastic. I'm at a loss for words because the film's just that great. All right, so I want to say this right. So give me a chance to read from my own script. From the moment the Hercules military transport lowers its hatch, the dread and the all-encompassing horror begins. This film is very close to unrelenting in its portrayal of zombie Armageddon. No hope for humanity and the terror brought by hideous-faced, blood-drenched blades and lead-filled fury of machine gun-toting zombies. And these aren't mindless living dead who cannot be stopped. They are cruel and depraved, contaminated bastards and bitches all. They not only want you dead, but they want you to suffer. Violence in the extreme, a more than fair amount of gore and nudity aplenty. Also, one of the best action-driven soundtracks before or since, and you have an incredibly fun and threatening horror film for zombie fans young and old. I've seen this film over 300 times since '88 and will likely be watching this flick well into my 80s. Perhaps 100 more times before the Reaper's blade comes calling and runs its scythe across my neck and I am but a ruin of blood and gore myself. Now, time for some teenage head to be placed over the media section of this video.